Hello and welcome back to another Warhammer 40k video we have for today. Creative Assembly to Developer Roundtable, going over the vision for the game, such as concept art, mechanics, and the general overview of the 4 factions and how they'll play. And for those who don't know, the game will only start out with 4 factions, and as usual there'll be a pre-order bonus, but it will not include any new factions, so assume every other faction you'd like to see will be added down the line. First up we have the Space Marines, the poster boys of Warhammer 40k. They're towering soldiers in armor being the elite troops of the Imperium. They are limited in number though, as their armies will only be 100 to 200, but the upside with that is that each one of your troops are worth the hundreds of the enemy. And with the new customization options, you won't be stuck as playing as the Ultramarines, even though I know many people like them, like myself, I find them interesting, but I know a lot of people are kind of tired of seeing the same Space Marines in all their Warhammer 40k games. So they are extremely strong and can take on most enemies on the battlefield, but you have to measure your losses since you can't build up troops in your economy in the same way other factions can, making them more of a precise hammer with how they play. So sadly you won't have massive armies of Space Marines clashing, and I know many people were hoping for that, but they are just as strong as they are in lore, at least somewhat. With the Space Marines not large in number, the way they build their empire is very different from any normal Total War experience, with more of an operations approach where you're taking out key threats or jumping into battle to help out the Imperium, while not having their main focus be building up an empire in their economy, but instead focus on the threats to the Imperium. It makes them just different enough from the Astra Militarum to justify them being separate factions. Speaking of the Astra Militarum, they're the general army of the Imperium, with people from all corners of the galaxy to fight against the Xenos threat, and unlike the Space Marines, there's lots of them, with regiments, artillery, and with a standard front line, as well as building up industries for vehicles, troops, and resources. They have a much more standard approach to war when you compare them to some of the crazy factions in Warhammer 40k, so you want to play them like most normal factions in a Total War game, where you want to build up their economy to keep feeding the war machine. And with the many different types of troops and weapons at their disposal, they are like the Swiss Army knife of the Imperium, so if their tactics don't work out, usually throwing every soldier you have at the enemy works out too. The Astra Militarum will be very close to what people would expect out of a Total War faction, having different layers to their economy, especially how they recruit units. And I expect when the game comes out, they'll basically become the new Empire from Warhammer Fantasy, where they always feel like the underdogs that are very fun to play, even in a game filled with dinosaurs riding other dinosaurs and rats with nukes. Now for a fan favorite faction, the Orcs. Having a wide array of different troops and weaponry, they really just feel like the Orcs from Fantasy but thrown into space with guns, with many of their war machines and vehicles made from scrapped Imperium stuff put together with duct tape and hope. So expect many different types of weaponry combined with the sheer number of Orcs that'll be on the battlefield alone. As many Total War Fantasy fans already know, the 2 army stacks together with the WOG mechanic is quite terrifying. While the Orcs have a lot of variety in how they can fight with all the scrap metal they're able to put together, they're just as good at fighting in close range. They have swords and missile on sticks, which is very on par with them, just to bash the enemy with, not including the psychers they have with the weird boys that can teleport other units to get the jump on the enemy. They're very similar to the Astra Militarum, and they must build up resources and expand to fund more armies, so the Orcs themselves can continue the fighting for as long as they can. Then on to the last faction, we have the Aldari, who seem like they'll become my favorite since they're similar to the High Elves from Fantasy. They're an old race with low numbers, similar to the Space Marines, since their souls go right to chaos when they die, making them have a small population, so where you won't have as many troops on the battlefield as other factions, but your weapons and class of troops will be of higher quality. They will be one of the most mobile factions in the game, with all their abilities like teleportation, as well as being very fast on the battlefield. And with the Aldari being small in number, they will not have a normal front line and expansions, instead using the webway and stealth technology to maneuver the universe, trying to prevent bad things from happening and trying to shift events into their favor. So instead of a normal war of back and forth battles, the Aldari instead will be going around the galaxy to fight whoever they need, then retreat back into the webway where their craft worlds are located. They're able to recruit units, build up their economy, and are basically the mega capitals of the Aldari, since they can't expand normally like other factions can. The craft worlds themselves will even have shrines where you can recruit certain elite units, making each one have different purposes depending on what you need at that time. A glass cannon type of faction, making them stand out amongst the other races, even if they do play very similar to the Space Marines with their small number count, but a faction going around trying to help other empires sounds really fun to me. So far each faction looks really good and they have their strengths and weaknesses, making them all unique in their own right, as well as letting you customize your faction and units with some insane details, like what your pauldrons will look like or what type of decals will be in your armor, really emulating the tabletop with the freedom you have with your factions. This is probably one of my favorite additions to Total War, since customizing how your faction looks is one thing many players like myself have been wanting for a while. Because even though you like the aesthetics of one faction, you could just not like the colors or maybe the decals they have. And what's even better is you're able to change how they play, So if you want your faction to be fire focused, your units will have flamethrowers and have bonuses for fire weapons. Then we have some more info about the battles, and you'll have thousands of troops moving on the ground, fighting on different planets and getting support from their ships with reinforcements and bombers. While the battle themselves will take place like in hive cities where terrain and buildings can fall apart to make cover or just outright destroy the cover. And with each planet being wildly different from each other, they all have different types of battle maps. So if it's a hive city, it will have more like siege battles with streets and barricades, or a toxic world where the very air wants to kill your troops and will bog you down. And since this is Warhammer 40k, yes, you can destroy planets like Stellaris, where nobody can use those planets ever again, letting the player truly destroy the universe without needing to be chaos or any quotation mark bad guys. And during the roundtable, Creative Assembly also hinted at something called anomalies in space, where you might have to battle certain factions to uncover something mysterious, or similar to events that will spice up your playthrough with unique challenges. And then since this does take place in space, each faction has their own fleets that will be taking their armies across the galaxy, very similar to Black Arcs from Fantasy, but can do a lot more. They're very essential to your campaign since they can ferry your troops to key regions, use bombardment abilities in battle or on the galaxy map. You can also station certain characters to lead the fleet that will affect your reinforcements you get in battle, with the addition of bonuses for your troops and campaign. So the main thing you want to do is keep them protected since they're your only way of moving troops from planet to planet. And so the last bit of info we got is how the campaigns will work out, and they're very different from any normal Total War game we've got. Instead, there'll be different theaters of war where your campaign can take place, while it will affect your future campaigns and the galaxy map as a whole depending on what you did during your last playthrough. So no matter what faction you played, it's going to play a part. These new theaters of war will take place in a hotspot of activity, with many factions fighting each other and complete chaos going on about, while the player must do key battles or quests to achieve whatever their goal might be for their faction, or whatever the player might just want to do. Now your campaigns and the battles you fight will shape the future of your own galaxy itself, which is not something on my bingo card about this game, but the more I hear about it sounds really fun. Like if I the player play as the Aldari, can I just keep helping the Imperium, so when I play them they have a stronger start? Hopefully all this will be answered when they give us more info, but I'm very excited to see what they have in store for us for this game. As you can see, there's many layers to the campaign, because I really like the Vortex map from Warhammer 2, so I'm hoping something very similar to that, or at least the sandbox, kind of mixed in from Immortal Empires to make the perfect balance for a campaign. I know this video wasn't too long, but we'll get more info about 40k in January, so stay tuned for the channel for more, of course. And that's going to wrap up the video. I know it's been a while since my last one, but I've been really busy with work and the holidays, so I really appreciate the patience for more videos, but I'll have a lot more time to focus on the channel very soon, and like always, I got more stuff in the works, like streams and videos for you guys. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. Like and subscribe, it really does help out the channel, and I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays, and I will see you guys in the future.